Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. This is the weekend edition. We've got a very special show for you today. On today's show, we're going to be taking a closer look at modular construction. And we're going to be live on location at a modular construction plant. Modular construction comes in two principal methods. The first is where the manufacturer completes entire modules of the buildings. This applies to multifamily apartments or single-family homes. The modules are fully finished. They're painted with flooring, utilities, even the appliances fully installed and strapped in place to prevent them from shifting during transportation. Since these boxes can be transported hundreds of miles from the factory to the final construction site, they have to be of extremely high build quality. They have to be extremely rigid, so you don't end up with lots of cracks in the finishes happening during transportation. The site work for these projects consists of the foundation and the roughing of the utilities to a single connection point through a centralized utilities duct. The extra lengths of pipe and wires, they're all coiled up in that utilities duct to enable the plumbers and electricians to complete the final utility connections in the basement level. The cost of modular box construction is usually on par with stick build. The savings come from the fact that the work is performed in the factory environment. It's much more efficient from a labor standpoint. They don't need licensed or unionized trades for the factory work, and the most expensive trades like plumbers and electricians are only needed for the final service connections. Total cost of the construction involves adding together the site work, the factory construction, and the much higher transportation cost for the finished boxes. These will be wide loads, and they'll often require carefully planned routes with special permits and sometimes even police escort. You'll require heavy cranes on site for the final assembly of the modules. In places where hurricanes or storms are a factor, you'll also require these modules to be bolted together. The second form of modular construction consists of panels. These panels can be flat packed on a flatbed truck or put in a shipping container. Transportation is much simpler, but understand that this form of assembly is much further from completion. You're basically accelerating the framing portion of the construction. Everything else, the rough-in utilities, the mechanical systems like heating, ventilation, air conditioning, they all need to be installed on site. This is much closer to a stick-build type scenario. The construction follows the usual permit process with all of the inspections happening on site with the building inspector. There's going to be a foundation inspection, a framing inspection, a rough-in inspection, insulation, and so on. The main benefit of panel construction is by saving time on site, and of course you're going to get a much higher build quality in the final assembly. You don't need very heavy equipment. Most of the on-site assembly can be done with a boom truck or sometimes even a forklift. This can be particularly important if you're trying to build new construction in the winter months. If it's minus 20 degrees outside, you can't always count on the framing crew to be super careful with their measurements, ensuring the proper spacing of fasteners and so on. They tend to get a bit of chainsaw carpentry happening. When measurements are not accurate, then you're going to have gaps in the building envelope. Things won't fit together quite as tightly as they should, and your insulation properties or your building are going to be compromised. On today's show, we're on site with Sliter at Deka Panels in Almonte, Ontario. I'll warn you in advance, we're in a noisy factory environment. Plenty of pneumatic tools firing off in the background, so the audio quality is not the best, but we'll be doing a small walking tour of the factory environment. Listen to my conversation with Sliter. Here with General Manager Sliter at Deka Pro Panels. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
Well, great to have you here. Now, we're here on the shop floor. I know it's a little bit noisy, lots going on here in the background. And we're here at one of the stations here in this 5,000 square foot facility where you're manufacturing panels that get assembled on site for building multifamily apartments and single family homes. Tell us what's happening here at this particular station.
So this station, we do all the sheet cuts for all the walls. So we're able to actually take every component in the wall and then cut it down so that it's accurate, so that when it gets to the line, it's very much systematic, and they can just pull the numbers and put them on the walls and have very little waste. Every station has a tablet like you see here, and everyone on the floor can know what's going on with every single panel that's going through the factory.
It all starts with a 3D model that you actually project here so that they can do all the measurements without spending a ton of time guessing and reading plans. So the folks that are doing the work here are just assembling. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. We have a laser on the ceiling that projects an accuracy within a 1/16 of an inch, and all the guys on the table have to do is put the placement of the studs and the windows and the components without any thinking. The laser actually does a double check method so that we're not making any mistakes on the panel drawings.
Of course, by doing these panels, you're able to do almost the entire wall assembly, but you're not doing the insulation. That gets done on site, correct?
Correct. We do all the wall framing in this factory. So it's anything to do with the framing we do here. But yeah, insulation and roughing is all done on site.
How much time would you say it saves in the assembly, the on-site work? Let's say it takes 7 to 10 days to frame a house on site. What would you say that cuts down to when you're assembling panels?
If you're doing walls on site, like a typical 2,000 square foot house, the walls would probably take around 3 days per story, and we're able to do it within an 8-hour workday, completely ready for the next story.
So that's a fairly substantial saving, but perhaps even more important than the time saving, I think there's a significant difference in the quality of the final product.
Yeah, in the factory we have a lot of jigs and tools and equipment to make sure that our cuts and assembly are a lot tighter than they would be on site. And then again with the program and the 3D drawings, we're able to cut accurately the pieces without the guess and check method they may use on site. And as it gets assembled, the people that are doing the assembly, the specific systems that they're doing, they do all day, every day, so they have a lot more practice making our quality a lot better than what on-site guys could do.
Well, this is fascinating. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this particular facility. Dylan, thank you for spending this time with us today.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
I love this particular factory tour with Dylan Sliter. If you're considering new construction, you may want to take a look at Modular Construction. There are a number of modular manufacturers throughout the southeast of the United States and even in the northeast. I've built multifamily apartment buildings using Modular Construction. You can buy plans off a menu that, quite frankly, you cannot tell at all that these are modular builds. In our case, we had the modular manufacturer build to our specifications using our designs. The last one we built was a 3-story townhouse-style triplex, and that was on the 1400 block of Bouvier Street in Philadelphia. What I can tell you from survey of modular manufacturers right now is that they are all very busy. Some of them are not accepting new clients, but I've also had extremely good success with high-quality manufacturers. As you think about that, maybe consider modular manufacturing for one of your upcoming projects. Have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.